Okay, now we're going to solve by quadratic formula. So when we solve by factoring, we have to be able to factor it. When we solve by square roots, we have to have a square root on one side, everything else on the other. When we solve by quadratic formula, it does not matter. Okay, here are the only criteria we have to have. It must be in standard form. So you have to have ax squared plus bx plus c. And it has to be set equal to 0. So you want everything on one side, 0 on the other, and you want it, and you need to know what A, B, and C are. Okay, that is crucial. So we're going to learn quadratic formula. It is a formula that a lot of people have memorized, but there's also people have made songs about quadratic formula. That's how much it's used. So for quadratic formula, the tune we're going to use, that I'm going to use, is Pop Goes the Weasel. Okay, so I'm going to write it down first, then I'll sing it to you. So x equals negative b. And when we talk about quadratic formula, we need to know a, b, and c. And notice I recommend that you state a, b, and c first. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? So what people have done is gone through and made up a song that goes along with it, so that then it's easier to remember. People can remember songs. So here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? Yeah, we want that to get stuck in your head. So we're going to sing it again. Sing it with me. Even if you're at home, sing it with me. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing over and over and over again. We're going to be able to find out, we're going to be able to solve any equation using this. So this one is really important and you want to make sure you know it. So here we go. Let's use it. Now it says solve using quadratic formula. If necessary, round to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to do some answers will come out exact. Some will round to the nearest hundredth. But I will show you how to leave it as a radical and also round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so here we go. 6x squared plus x minus 35 is equal to 0. First, I like to write down what a, b, and c are. A is 6, b is 1, and c is negative 35. Now, I know quadratic formula is right here, but we need to memorize this. So the best way to do it is if we write it down every single time. Okay, so here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it also makes it nice because then we can plug everything right in there so we can see it. So x equals negative. Now here's the other recommendation I would make. This is a recommendation. Whenever I plug things in, I put it in parentheses. Especially this b thing with it being negative every place. It really does make it lots easier. So negative, hello, b is just 1. I'm making up things now. B is just 1. Just plug in a 1. Okay? And then b squared, that's 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 6, and c, which is negative 35. And that needs to all be under the radical, all over 2 times a. So here we go. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus. Now we're going to multiply this. Pull your calculator. 24 times 35. And we get 840 negative, watch that. Now I realize that's going to turn into a plus or positive, but don't rush to it. Okay? All over 12. So that's negative 1 plus or minus the square root of, well, that's going to be 841 all over 12. So we get negative 1 plus or minus, let's see if 81 is a perfect square. And it is. It's 29. Now, notice that plus or minus, just like we did on the square roots, we have a plus or a minus. What this means is that we have, we have negative 1 plus 29 over 12. And we have negative 1 minus 29 over 12. Yeah, these take up a lot of room. Okay, so this is going to give me 28 over 12. That's what this one gives me. And this gives me negative 30 over 12. So this reduces down, what is it? 4 goes into both of those. So that'd be 7 over 3. And 6 goes into both of these, negative 5 over 2. Those are our two answers. Okay, these are our two answers. Good. Okay, let's go on to number 2. Write down what A, B, and C are to begin with. Oh, hold on. We should always check. We have to have 0 on one side by itself. That one worked out, that one worked out. But you'll have some coming up that will not work out. So you always have to get everything on one side, 0 on the other. B is 7, C is negative 9. Okay, write out the formula. Sing it. Here we go. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Good. Now let's plug everything in. So negative B, which is 7, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. And I realize we could have just written down 49. I know that. But I highly recommend that you just plug it in first and then simplify. Okay? So there's no race to get it done. We have time, not a problem. So we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of. Now I'm going to multiply it out. Oh, that's supposed to be a square root. 49 minus negative. That's going to be 4 times 2, which is 8 times 9, which is negative 72, all over 4. So we get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of. And I realize you guys are doing this all on your calculator, so you can just plug it all in. Don't be too quick to do that. It's good if you just show your work, okay? So that's going to be 49 plus 72. So we get the square root of 121 all over 4. Is 121 a perfect square? Yes, it is. So that gives us negative 7 plus or minus square root of 121 is 11 all over 4. If I don't have a radical, I'm going to break it apart. So this becomes negative 7 plus 11 over 4. Negative 7 minus 11 over 4. Those are our two answers. I should have started way up here. So that gives me 3/4. Because negative 3/4. Negative 18. Negative 18 over 4. That gives me negative 9/2. So these are my two answers. Okay, questions? Now, you'll find out real soon that they don't always come out to be nice little numbers like that. So let's look at number 3. Number 3, do we have a 0 on a side by itself? No, we do not. So that's one of the first things we need to do, is we need to get it so everything else on one side, 0's on the other. So we're going to move it. Now, I like to keep A positive, but you don't have to, but that's what I like to do. So I'm going to move everything over to this other side. I'm going to subtract 7m, and I'm going to subtract 2. So now I have 4m squared minus 7m minus 2 is equal to 0. Now we can use quadratic formula. We cannot until we get 0 on one side. Now we're going to use quadratic formula. Write out what A, B, and C are. So I have A is 4, B is negative 7, C is negative 2. Write down quadratic formula. Sing it. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Good. Okay, now we're going to plug that stuff in. Negative B, so negative 7, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. Okay, let's simplify that. So that's 7. It turns out to be a positive, plus or minus the square root of 49. I should do it in different colors so it's easier to see what line I'm on. 49 minus negative. 4 times 4 is 16 times 2 is 32. All over 8. 7 plus or minus the square root of, that's 49 plus 32. Gives me 81. Oh my gosh, we are getting all these nice ones. Over 8. 81 is a perfect square also. So we got another nice one. Okay. So we have now 7 plus 9 over 8. 7 minus 9 over 8. 7 plus 9 is 16. So that gives us 2. 7 minus 9 is negative 2 over 8. That gives us negative 1/4. But you can't see my answers. 2 and negative 1/4. Good. Let's do another one. Number 4. Okay, I want you to start it on your own. Write down what... Oh, wait, no, hold on. What do we need to do first with this? Look at this. Do we have 0 on one side? No, we do not. So we need to move everything over. So I'm going to move the W over. Nothing combine that with. But look at that, negative 6. I can combine that with the 4. So I get 5W squared minus W minus 6 is equal to 0. Okay, now I want you to write down what A, B, and C are. I want you to write down quadratic formula. I want you to plug it in. Go. I'm going to pause. You're going to do that. Okay, you're trying it on your own, at least the beginning parts. So A is 5, B is negative 1, C is negative 6. We've written down quadratic formula. We've plugged it in. So we have 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 26, 121, all over 10. We have too many nice ones. Okay, so we have 1. Oh, no, this one doesn't. Plus or minus 1 minus 121. Hold on, though. That should be a negative 121. Let me double check. 1 minus, that's a negative 121. It's a negative 120. Okay, so now we're going to plus a positive. That's going to give us the square root of 121 over 10. Man, all of these came out nice. Don't worry. We'll have some that don't. I'll show you how to do them. Okay, we'll go to the worksheet in just a second. So we have 1 plus or minus 11 all over 10. Break it apart, we get 1 plus 11 over 10, 1 minus 11 over 10. That gives us 12 over 10. This gives us 10 over 10, negative. So that gives us 6/5 and negative 1. Okay, those were all really nice. Okay, they didn't give us anything that was too difficult to work with. Let's move on to ones that maybe take a little more work. So I'm going to pick some for us on this worksheet to do together. Okay, so on your worksheet, using the quadratic formula, I'm just going to pick a couple, and then I'll have you talk to me. Well, you can, obviously. So we're going to start with number 8, and we're going to go through and use quadratic formula in order to solve this one, and you'll see why in just a second. The other ones that we've been doing could have been solved by factoring. This one would not have been able to be factored. First thing we have to do, of course, is get 0 on one side. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. Therefore, we get 2m squared minus 7m minus 3 is equal to 0. And this one is not factorable. Okay, so we couldn't have solved this one by factoring. So let's write down A, B, and C. A is 2, B is negative 7, C is negative 3. Write down quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Hopefully you're starting to memorize that. It's really important you memorize that. That's going to be extremely helpful on ACT exams. So let's plug everything in. Negative b, so b is negative 7, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. And you're going to find you might need to do some work on another piece of paper. You're welcome to do that always. So we get 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus negative. 4 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24. 24 all over 4. So this gives us 7 plus or minus. Well, what's 49 plus 24? 73. That's the square root of 73 all over 4. Okay, is 73 a perfect square? No. Can 73 be broken down? Let's pull out our calculators. Well, 72 can. 73 is odd, so it's not divisible by 2. 73 divided by 3. Nope. 73 divided by 13. Oh, wait, if there's no perfect squares, so 73 divided by 9, we know that doesn't work. 73 doesn't have any perfect squares. That's our answer. That's all we do. So our answer is actually 7 plus or minus the square root of 73 all over 4. That's our answer. Now, some books will be very picky, and you need to write it out as 7 plus square root 73 over 4 and 7 minus square root 73 over 4. And it's good to kind of see that so you remember that's two different answers. Okay, that's two answers on that one. Good. Let's go to the back. Now on the back, I picked one more. And you know what we should do? If I were in class, I'd have you be trying some on your own. I'm hoping that you're doing okay and you're getting them. So I'm just going to keep on going. The next one I picked was number 18. I could have done 16 or 18. I'm doing even. So obviously you're going to be doing odds for homework. So if you haven't already figured that one out. But I want to look at number 15 first. Number 15 looks like it's horrible. It's not. Just move everything. So I have to get everything to one side. So I'm going to move 3k squared. I'm going to move that over here. I'm going to move the 2k. I'm going to move the 6. So I end up with 4k squared. My 2k's drop out, and you want it in standard form. You want it in descending order. Those drop out, so then I get minus, oh, wouldn't you know, I have to subtract 31 and 6 gives me a negative 31, and 6 gives me a negative 25 is equal to 0. Oh, that one is so factorable. But solve by quadratic formula just so you get in the habit. And look at B on that one. What's B? B is 0. Pretty much doing the whole problem for you, but that's okay. Okay, so A is 4, B is 0, C is negative 25. Do you see how you can factor that one so nicely? Anyway, try it by quadratic formula, just so that you get the practice. Okay, let's look at number 18. Number 18, we don't have 0 on one side, so we're going to add 7 to begin with. And we get 8n squared plus 7n minus 8 is equal to 0. A is equal to 8, B is equal to 7, C is equal to negative 8. Quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now we're going to plug that in. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus negative. These are not always minus negatives. Okay, sometimes you're going to have plus and negative, but we haven't had that yet. So just watch those signs there. Let's see. 64 times 4. That's going to be 256 over 16. We've had a lot of b's being 7. Have you noticed that? That's weird. Okay, so we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of, that's supposed to be a radical, 49 plus 256 gives us 305. I'm pretty sure 305 is not a perfect square. So I'm going to take the square root of that. Ah, yeah, it's not. Because see how they didn't give me a whole answer? It's going to give me a decimal. So I'm going to have to break. I'm going to see if I can break down 305. Okay. So I'm going to go up and take this space up here. I'm going to take 305 and see if I can break it down. 305. 5 goes into it. 61. Do you see what I did there? 5 goes into it. 5 goes into 36. 5 goes in. So 61. Is 61 divisible by anything? I don't think so. No, it's prime. Ha! Okay, sometimes what we have to do is we have to simplify that square root. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of those on this worksheet, so I'm sorry. That is your answer. Okay, good. Okay, so that's quadratic formula. I'll find some more where we have to break them down. We'll practice some more of those sometimes, but anyway. A lot of times we have to take this, and if it's not a perfect square, there's perfect squares within it. Unfortunately, all the ones I chose are not. So what I'm talking about is that you can sometimes come up with like negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 48 all over 12. Well, this can be reduced down to negative 6. 48 breaks into 16 and 3. So this would be negative 6 plus or minus 4 square root 3 all over 12. If we have some time later on, we'll do some like that, okay? So not right now. Don't worry about it. If they don't work out, we'll be okay. Okay, good. So that's it for quadratic formula. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. Thanks.